Hey guys! So I've decided, since I challenged myself this summer to read a lot of books, I'm going to be talking about them, doing my little self-reviews on them. And so far I'm going to talk about these two books that I felt so far that were really good, but like I kind of have a lot to talk about with them. But I won't be giving out too much because I don't want to spoil them if you haven't read them yet. But these two books are November 9 by Colleen Hoover and Ugly Love. So first I'm going to be talking about November 9 because I feel like Ugly Love has a lot that I need to unpack. So, okay, November 9. This one was kind of like so it's about this girl named Felton who, like, her dream was to be an actor, go on Broadway. And what ended up happening was because she was in an accident when she was a couple months ago, they had to let her go from this job that she had, and like she wants to move to New York to pursue her dream and audition for Broadway, but her dad kept telling her no, like she can't do it because when she got like injured, they left scars all over the left side of her body, so her dad kept saying she can't do it, doesn't want her to leave. So they got into this huge argument, and then there's this guy named Ben has nothing to do with anything, and this man he was sitting behind them in the booth, like the restaurant, and this man decides, oh, I'm gonna go protect her. I don't know, okay. So then he just comes out of his seat, he scooches in next to her in her booth with her dad, and he starts pretending to be her boyfriend. And in my head, like, I stopped reading for a second, I was just like, okay, that's okay. But like, in between fights, like Felton went to the bathroom at one point and like he was just staring at her and like she was staring back, so it's like, I don't know. So then after that, like he kind of like protected her and was saying like, you shouldn't be telling her that, like she's good enough to do anything she wants, basically. And then the dad was going off on the so-called boyfriend, and it ended up ending with the dad leaving, then Felton going to the bathroom crying, and then him just sitting there like waiting for her to come back. And she did come back, but like they kept pretending that they were still dating and stuff. They spent the whole day together, and then what ended up happening was that like he came over to her apartment because he was helping her finish packing because she was moving to New York that day, like in a couple of hours, so they only spent a little bit of time together. And so then like after that, like he drops her off at the airport, and they kind of make this agreement that like they're going to meet up every year on November 9th. They're not gonna like exchange each other's phone numbers, like social media or anything. Like they're not gonna have any contact with each other like during the year. So they're just gonna meet again November 9th. Like that's their day. And the reason they did that was because Felton wants Ben, because he's a story writer. She wants him to write a book about like their relationship, like what they're doing. They're not in a relationship, but like what they're doing, you know. Yeah, so like I said, he's a story writer. She wants him to like kind of write the book about their relationship, and then he wants her to kind of get out there and like regain her confidence again, because ever since the fire, like she lost it because she has scars all over herself. So what ends up happening is the following year, okay, so they meet up a total of like 5 times, but like, okay, well technically it's 7, but like 5 of the major times that they meet up. But like I'll only give a little bit of each because I don't want to spoil anything, but okay. So the second time they meet up, they're supposed to meet up again in LA. Like she's supposed to fly back, but what ends up happening is she can't make it because her flight got delayed. So this part was so cute, like I don't know, like, okay, so she knows what restaurant they're supposed to meet up at, right? So then she ends up calling the store or like the I don't know if it was a store, I don't remember if it was a store or a gasoline station next door or whatever. She calls that place instead, and she's like, hey, like I'll pay you like $20 if you like go over to this restaurant and tell this person that like to get on the phone or whatever. So this person from the other place comes to the restaurant, finds Ben, and he's like, hey, there's someone on the phone like wanting to talk to you. He like immediately gets over his booth, he starts running to the place next door, and he's like, oh my gosh, Felton. He's like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. She's like, my flight just got delayed, like I want to let you know, like I'm not gonna be here for another hour or two. And so they end up meeting at his house instead, because obviously by the time she gets there, like, you know. So they end up meeting at his house. And like she meets like his family friends there. And then Ben and his brother get in an argument. Ben's older brother. Okay, so Ben's older brothers is Ian, and then Kenny something. I don't remember. But anyways, the oldest one, he gets into a fight with, and then she sees it, and so like he takes her immediately upstairs, and like he doesn't want to talk about it because he wants her to know nothing about him, because like obviously like what they're doing is not a relationship. It's like a year gap between, like, you know. So what ends up happening is he wants to go get fresh air. He takes her to the beach. Oh my god. Yeah, so he takes her to the beach. They spend the night, well, not spend the night there, but like obviously a couple of hours there. It's like nighttime, and then he decides all of a sudden, oh, I want to go get a tattoo. So then they go to a tattoo parlor together, and then like, well, she doesn't get a tattoo, he gets a tattoo. And she kept asking him what the meaning was, but he wouldn't tell her. And like, even I was like anxious to know, because he got a music note on his arm that said like passion in the middle, and I was just like, what does that mean? But he's not into music, so I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But okay, so that was the second time they met up, and then they go back to his apartment, and then he gives her a ride to the airport the next day. She goes back to New York for her work or whatever. Third time they meet up, they're supposed to meet in New York because she told him, she was like, hey, like, I went to Los Angeles the year before, you should come to New York, like there's some places I want to show you around. So she was anxiously waiting for him to show up. He never shows up. Same thing happens. A waitress comes up to her, says, hey, there's someone on the phone for you, it's him. And then what ends up happening is that, like, at first I thought he was joking. I was like, oh my god, like, he better not be playing a prank on her, like, you know. But he wasn't. Nope. I can't spoil it. Hold on. Let's just say he had something happen at home. Family emergency. Yeah, I can't spoil it. So she ends up, so instead of like them meeting up, she ends up flying to LA again to surprise him that she's there. He's actually really happy that she showed up. She's there. Trying to think like what. Try not to spoil anything. Let's just say they spend the night together in his place. He ends up deciding then and there, like, he loves her. He wants to move in with her. He doesn't want to like stay like this year until he sees her again, right? So that happened. And so then like, yeah, so then he's like, he basically tells her he wants to stop whatever they're doing. Like, he doesn't care about the book anymore that he's supposed to write. Like, he wants to be here with her. Like, he doesn't want her to leave. She doesn't want him. Like, they decided that already. Then Jordan, Jordan's his friend, that was dating the older brother that I don't remember his name. So she's pregnant. And something happened, and she, like, you know, she basically needs her friends right now, her family there. And so Ben ends up deciding at that moment that he's not, because he was gonna sell his house, but then he's like, no, like, I shouldn't do it anymore because Jordan. So what ends up happening is that, you know, not Lily, oh my god, wrong book, Felton heard the conversation, and so like she decided for him to end whatever they're doing, because like she knows that his family needs him right now. She leaves. They get into this huge argument. He begs her to go. He literally tells her he loves her, but she still leaves. And I'm like, that's crazy. Yeah. So then she leaves back to New York. Then the following year, Lily moves back to LA. We all know it's for him, but you know, she kept on denying it. But I was like, we know. But then the following year, they met up again. Even though they got in this huge argument the year before, like, they're still meeting up again. And this is the crazy part, is that when they meet up again, Ben's here, but he's not by himself. He's holding a child. Yep, holding a child. And, you know, in my head, I was just like, what happened in a span of a year? Like, so then we find out that's his niece. You know, we don't have to worry, right? We don't have to worry. But, you know, they get into this huge argument because Ben ends up falling in love with someone else. I'm not telling you who it is because I can't spoil it. But he ends up falling in love with someone else. Felton finds out, she starts crying because she expected, you know, him to be waiting for her. Which obviously, makes sense because like he did the year before tell her he wanted to move in with her, but she did end up leaving him. So, you know, it was hectic. So she ends up leaving. They don't talk again. I think, yeah. So then I think this is the 5th time they meet up. Well, they don't actually meet up this time because Felton told him that she's not coming anymore because of like the whole fight they had. So then this part's okay. This is the crazy part. So it was November 9 that day. And then her friend was like, hey, like, come out with us, go clubbing, you know, like, stop thinking about him. Like, we'll do something else to get your mind off it. She didn't want to go, but she goes. And she's on a date with some other guy. And then given, like, an hour in to her going to the club, guess who shows up? Ben. Like, how did he find her? Like, in my head, when I was reading this, I was just like, how? I don't, you know what? And so what ends up happening is that he's there and he like literally like goes into her the table they were sitting at. Like he goes in and he sits right next to her, and then she looks at him like, what are you doing here? And then her date is looking at her like, do you know him? And then they were all trying to play it off like they don't know him because like obviously she's on a date with a guy she's been dating for like I think 2 months. And so she's like, no, like I don't know him, like, you know. So then what ends up happening is that like she like wants to get out of the conversation because it's like awkward. So she runs to the bathroom. Ben follows her. They have their little moments. They come back, and what ends up happening is that Ben confesses his love for her in front of her date, which I'm like, this is crazy because her date doesn't even know what's going on. So he ends up basically saying that he loves her and that Ben told her date that they've been lying to him, that like they don't know him, but they know him because like Felton is the one he wants to be with the rest of his life. And I was like, this is gonna go down badly, because then the date started getting mad at both Felton and Ben. So they almost got into like a fight, like a fist fight. And they did when they got outside because like Felton was trying to follow her date out because like she was upset that like he had to find out that way. And so they like go outside, they start fighting, like Ben and that guy she's dating goes in a fist fight because he said something about her that like triggered Ben off. Oh, because she was trying to apologize, and then he was like, no, like, plus you're like, he's like, you're ugly, like, you know, it doesn't matter, whatever. Like, he went off on her. Ben got upset. He fought her. The friend of Felton that was there also gets into a fight with him. They punch him. It's crazy. They had to get separated by security. And then Ben ended up like taking her back home because like they went to go talk out everything, and they did. And that was like the first night that they actually like spent together, like actually like went all the way from night to morning because like she because she what do you call it, she had to leave to New York, but now she moved to LA, like she doesn't have to leave. Okay, so the next day when she wakes up, this is where it gets crazy, guys. This is where, you know, I had to take breaths or like moments of breaks during the book because like it got crazy. Let's just say that like she found the book that he's been writing, right? She opens it and she finds something in there she wasn't supposed to read. Ben does not like when people read his like books, like, or like his writings without it being finished. So she ends up finding something in there that like she wasn't supposed to see, wasn't supposed to read yet. And so like Ben opens the door in the morning, sees that she's reading the book, and like he tries to get near her. He's like, hey, like, let me talk, let me explain what's going on. She starts crying, she starts kicking him, she's like, get away from me. She leaves, she gets a restraining order on him, which I'm like, what? I know what happened, but I can't tell you, obviously. But like in my head, I was just like, that's crazy. So then the following, I think it was either the 6th or 7th time, no, 6th time, they were supposed to meet up. She doesn't show up either. He like leaves his whole entire book on her doorstep, leaves a note on it, and he says like, hey, like, I'm sorry, like, I know you're mad at me right now and you have every right to be, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from. So he leaves the entire book for her to read. She never shows up to their restaurant dinner thing that they do every year. Never shows up. Her mom ends up convincing her to read it because her mom already read it when she was sleeping. So she reads it like the entire, I personally started crying because it was sad what he went through. But basically she read it. It was almost, this is like the 7th time now they're supposed to meet up. She read it. It was almost midnight. She runs to the restaurant that they are supposed to meet up again. And he's there. She forgives him. They like have a happily ever after ending, which I'm actually happy for because okay, first I was irritated when I read what he did. But then, you know, like I kind of, when I read his, like while she was reading his story, we were reading his story. So I was like, okay, like I get where he's coming from and it was an accident what happened. But like, you know, still like, it's just crazy to me that that just happened in like 30 pages of the book. But yeah. So they ended up like being together. And I think they ended up moving together too. But you know, it's so crazy to me because I'm like, you know, like, I don't know. This book had a lot of like ups and downs in it, but it was really cute. And like, obviously it makes sense because it's a Colleen like Hoover book, which like those are typically like romance books that have a lot of like tragic either endings or beginnings or, you know, but it's so cute. It's so cute. And I really liked it. So I'm like, I recommend it to you guys if you guys like those type of books. But I just know you're gonna be in for a roller coaster because that's exactly what happened. But yeah, that's this book, and I'm gonna make another video for part 2 so you can hear me rant about this book.